Welcome to Mindful Monday. If you are new here, my name is Alicia. Let's go ahead and get started. If you're ready to do the tapping portion, we're tapping on financial freedom. So go ahead, get set up, and you can start tapping on your karate chop point. And repeat after me. You can say these out loud or you can say them in your mind. Even though I don't feel financially free right now, I choose to show respect and compassion to myself. I am open and willing to live a life of financial freedom. So I choose to completely love and accept myself. As well as anyone else connected to this. All this worry about my finances. All this doubt that I can ever be financially free. It seems like bills just keep piling up. And that anytime I get ahead financially, something happens that moves me backward. Whatever I am feeling is valid. It is easy for me to allow my emotions without judgment. So I allow myself to process them all now. The truth is, living a life of financial freedom is my birthright. I know anyone is capable of living a life of financial freedom, including me. So I let go of any beliefs that are keeping me from being financially free. Starting now, I choose financial freedom instead of financial struggle. And I expect to always experience financial abundance in my life. Money flows to me so easily and effortlessly. Everything I touch turns to gold. In fact, I get paid just to exist. I love money, and money loves me even more. I remember when I felt like I didn't have enough money. But now I am 100% debt free. And I always have more than enough money. Money creates a positive impact in my life and in the lives of others. And everyone benefits from my financial freedom. So I give myself permission to be financially free. And I allow myself to receive financial abundance. I know I am worthy and deserving of financial freedom. And I become more financially free with every breath I take. I am grateful for the abundance I have now. As well as the abundance that is yet to come. Living a life of financial freedom is now my reality. I feel safe, stable, and secure in every way, including financially. In fact, I am thriving financially like never before. And I now know and feel the truth of this all. Mind, body, and soul. And then take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And grab a drink of water. All right, everybody, we're going to move on to our activity. This is a body awareness activity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you from head to toe to different body parts. And what you're going to do is you're going to tense up that part of your body and then release it when I direct you to, okay? So when you first tense it up, you can observe the sensations, the energy it takes. And then when you release it, you can observe those sensations. If any of these feel really challenging or painful, stop doing them, okay? If there's parts of your body that you're not supposed to do this because of doctor orders or something, don't do it. And you can have your eyes open, you can have your eyes closed if you want. There's no right or wrong way to do this. We're going to start out at the forehead, okay? Some of these may be a little challenging. We're going to see what happens here, okay? All right, so let's start at the forehead. Go ahead and tense up your forehead, just your forehead as much as you can. Focus on the forehead. And just observe the sensations. I'm going to do it along with you. Now release your forehead. And just let it relax and let it be. And observe how that feels. Any sensations in your body anywhere or in your forehead. That's where the focus is. And just be mindful to keep breathing through this exercise as well. Now we're going to move down to your eyes. Go ahead and tense up your eyes as much as you can. Squint them closed as tight as you can. Observe the sensations as you do that. No judgment as you make these observations, just noticing and observing. And then release and let your eyes just be. And observe any sensations you may experience and how it feels. Now we're going to move down to the nose. So go ahead and scrunch your nose, tense it up as much as you can. Don't worry about how it looks. I can only see me. Well, I'm not even looking. Observe as you're tensing up your nose. And then let it go. Release that tension and observe how it feels. And again, just reminding you to breathe through this. Don't hold your breath. If you do, or notice that you're ever holding your breath, just bring your breath back and observe that. Now we're going to move down to the lips and your mouth. Okay, so go ahead and tense up your lips and your mouth as tight as you can. It's hard for me to talk like this. Observe the sensations as you do that. And then release and let your mouth just be and observe those sensations. And now we're going to move down to the neck. So go ahead and tense up your neck as tight as you can or as best you can. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Just bringing the awareness and the attention to the neck. Observe the sensations as you do that. And release. And observe the sensations in your neck as you release. Again, no judgment as you're tensing up or as you're releasing and observing. There's no judgment, just observation. Next, we're going to move down to the shoulders. Go ahead and tense up just your shoulders. Isolate that if you can and are able. Tense up those muscles as tight as you can. Observe the sensations. Remember to breathe. And then release. And observe the sensations as you release that, and your shoulders are free. Feel like shaking them a little bit, that's okay too. That's what I kind of did. Now we're going to move down to the arms. So go ahead and tense up just your arms. Don't include your hands. Try to isolate those arms, the forearm, the upper arm, and the bicep area tight. Feel those sensations. And release, and just let your arms be. Observe those sensations without judgment as well. Now we'll move down to the hands. Excuse me. So go ahead and take your hands and clench your fists as tight as you can. Bring awareness to the sensations in your hand as you do this. And release. And just let your hands be. And observe those sensations. And any sensations that you experience are valid. If any emotions are coming up, those are valid as well. Just allow them to pass. Allow them to be. And now we're going to move down to the stomach. So go ahead and tighten up your stomach as best you can. Tight, tight, tight. Squeeze it. Observe the sensations as you do that. Don't forget to breathe. Remember to breathe. And release. And just let your stomach be. And observe those sensations. You can observe your breathing as well. No need to change it unless you're holding your breath. Then change it so you're breathing. All right, moving down to the pelvis and gluteus maximus area. Go ahead and squeeze those together, or squeeze it. Squeeze them together. Squeeze. Observe the sensations as you do this. And go ahead and release and just let your pelvis and glute areas relax. Observe the sensations as they just relax. No judgment. And now we'll move to the upper leg, so the quadricep area, the back, the big major leg muscles. Go ahead and squeeze just the upper muscle. Try to isolate that the best you can. Squeeze and hold them. Observe the sensations. Trying to just squeeze the top. And release. And observe the sensations that are there. No judgment. I think I was holding my breath. Make sure you're breathing still. No particular way, just your natural rhythm of your breath. And now we're going to move to the lower leg, so the calf muscle area. Squeeze that as tight as you can, isolate that as you can, and breathe. That's a note to self more than a note to you all. And then release and observe the sensations in your legs, the lower legs, the calf area. And now we'll move on to the final part, which is the feet. So go ahead and tighten those feet up. Squeeze as tight as you can. Notice the sensations, observe without judgment. And release and let your feet relax. And notice the sensations in your feet as they are relaxed. If any, if there's no sensations, that's okay too. There's no judgment. All right. That was our body awareness activity. So taking time to really come into our bodies and observe sensations and begin or continue the process of learning non-judgment of the self, and also being in tune with our bodies. A lot of times we are up in our heads, overthinking, or just not very centered in our body. So this really brings everything back down and also helps observe too where you might be holding tension unconsciously, although we were tensing up muscles on purpose. We will move on now then to the reading portion of Mindful Monday, which is the power of now. We are starting off at beauty arises in the stillness of your presence. What you have just described is something that I occasionally experience for brief moments when I am alone and surrounded by nature. Yes, Zen masters use the word satori to describe a flash of insight, a moment of no mind and total presence. Although satori is not a lasting transformation, be grateful when it comes, for it gives you a taste of enlightenment. You may indeed have experienced it many times without knowing what it is and realizing its importance. Presence is needed to become aware of the beauty, the majesty, the sacredness of nature. Have you ever gazed up into the infinity of space on a clear night, awestruck by the absolute stillness and inconceivable vastness of it? Have you listened, truly listened, to the sound of a mountain stream in the forest, or to the song of a blackbird at dusk on a quiet summer evening? To become aware of such things, the mind needs to be still. You have to put down for a moment your personal baggage of problems, of past and future, as well as all your knowledge. Otherwise, you will see but not see, hear but not hear. Your total presence is required. Beyond the beauty of the external forms, there is more here. Something that cannot be named, something ineffable, some deep inner holy essence. Whenever and wherever there is beauty, this inner essence shines through somehow. It only reveals itself to you when you are present. Could it be that this nameless essence and your presence are one and the same? Would it be there without your presence? Go deeply into it. Find out for yourself. When you experienced those moments of presence, you likely didn't realize that you were briefly in a state of no mind. This is because the gap between that state and the influx of thoughts was too narrow. Your satori may only have lasted for a few seconds before the mind came in, but it was there. Otherwise, you would not have experienced the beauty. Mind can neither recognize nor create beauty. Only for a few seconds, while you were completely present, was that beauty or that sacredness there. Because of the narrowness of that gap and a lack of vigilance and alertness on your part, you were probably unable to see the fundamental difference between the perception, the thoughtless awareness of beauty, and the naming and interpreting of it as thought. The time gap was so small that it seemed to be a single process. The truth is, however, that the moment thought came in, all you had was a memory of it. The wider the time gap between perception and thought, the more depth there is to you as a human being, which is to say, the more conscious you are. Many people are so imprisoned in their minds that the beauty of nature does not really exist for them. They might say, "What a pretty flower," but that's just a mechanical mental labeling. Because they are not still, not present, they don't truly see the flower, don't feel its essence, its holiness. Just as they don't know themselves, don't feel their own essence, their own holiness. Because we live in such a mind-dominated culture, most modern art, architecture, music, and literature are devoid of beauty, of inner essence, with very few exceptions. The reason is that the people who create those things cannot, even for a moment, free themselves from their mind. So they are never in touch with that place within where true creativity and beauty arise. The mind left to itself creates monstrosities, and not only in art galleries. Look at our urban landscapes and industrial wastelands. No civilization has ever produced so much ugliness. Realizing pure consciousness. Is presence the same as being? When you become conscious of being, what is really happening is that being becomes conscious of itself. When being becomes conscious of itself, that's presence. Since being, consciousness, and life are synonymous, we could say that presence means consciousness becoming conscious of itself, or life attaining self-consciousness. But don't get attached to the words, and don't make an effort to understand this. There is nothing that you need to understand before you can become present. I do understand what you just said, but it seems to imply that being, the ultimate transcendental reality, is not yet complete, that it is undergoing a process of development. Does God need time for personal growth? Yes, but only as seen from the limited perspective of the manifested universe. In the Bible, God declares, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, and I am the living one." In the timeless realm where God dwells, which is also your home, the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, are one, and the essence of everything that ever has been and ever will be is eternally present in an unmanifested state of oneness and perfection, totally beyond anything the human mind can ever imagine or comprehend. In our world of seemingly separate forms, however, timeless perfection is an inconceivable concept. Here, even consciousness, which is the light emanating from the eternal source, seems to be subject to a process of development, but this is due to our limited perception. It is not so in absolute terms. Nevertheless, let me continue to speak for a moment about the evolution of consciousness in this world. Everything that exists has being, has God essence, has some degree of consciousness. Even a stone has rudimentary consciousness. Otherwise, it would not be, and its atoms and molecules would disperse. Everything is alive. The sun, the earth, plants, animals, humans. All are expressions of consciousness in varying degrees. Consciousness manifesting as a form. The world arises when consciousness takes on shapes and forms, thought forms and material forms. Look at the millions of life forms on this planet alone, in the sea, on land, in the air. And then each life form is replicated millions of times. To what end? Is someone or something playing a game with form? This is what the ancient seers of India asked themselves. They saw the world as Lila, a kind of divine game that God is playing. The individual life forms are obviously not very important in this game. In the sea, most life forms don't survive for more than a few minutes after being born. The human form turns to dust pretty quickly too, and when it is gone, it is as if it had never been. Is that tragic or cruel? Only if you create a separate identity for each form. If you forget that its consciousness is God essence expressing itself in form. But you don't truly know that until you realize your own God essence as pure consciousness. If a fish is born in your aquarium and you call it John, write out a birth certificate, tell him about his family history, and 2 minutes later he gets eaten by another fish, that's tragic. But it's only tragic because you projected a separate self when there was none. You got hold of a fraction of a dynamic process, a molecular dance, and made a separate entity out of it. Consciousness takes on the disguise of forms until they reach such complexity that it completely loses itself in them. In present-day humans, consciousness is completely identified with its disguise. It only knows itself as form and therefore lives in fear of the annihilation of its physical or psychological form. This is the egoic mind, and this is where considerable dysfunction sets in. It now looks as if something had gone very wrong somewhere along the lines of evolution. But even this is a part of Lila, the divine game. Finally, the pressure of suffering created by this apparent dysfunction forces consciousness to disidentify from form and awakens it from its dream of form. It regains self-consciousness, but it is at a far deeper level than when it lost it. This process is explained by Jesus in his parable of the lost son, who leaves his father's home, squanders his wealth, becomes destitute, and is then forced by his suffering to return home. When he does, his father loves him more than before. The son's state is the same as it was before, yet not the same. It has an added dimension of depth. The parable describes a journey from unconscious perfection through apparent imperfection and evil to conscious perfection. Can you now see the deeper and wider significance of becoming present as the watcher of your mind? Whenever you watch the mind, you withdraw consciousness from mind forms, which then becomes what we call the watcher or the witness. Consequently, the watcher, pure consciousness beyond form, becomes stronger, and the mental formations become weaker. When we talk about watching the mind, we are personalizing an event that is truly of cosmic significance. Through you, consciousness is awakening out of its dream of identification with form and withdrawing from form. This foreshadows, but is already part of an event that is probably still in the distant future as far as chronological time is concerned. The event is called the end of the world. And that is where we will stop for today. And that's going to round out Mindful Monday for today.